Hello, General Hospital Today will reveal the latest updates from General Hospital have stirred a wave of disappointment and frustration among longtime viewers, particularly regarding a controversial set change that has fans voicing their outrage across social media. The uproar centers around Windermere, the iconic Gothic estate that has long served as a dramatic centerpiece for the show's darker storylines. With its brooding architecture, shadowy corridors, and haunting atmosphere, Windermere was more than just a location. It was a character in its own right. However, during the January 27, 2026 episode, viewers were given a brief look at the new version of Windermere through the eyes of Jocelyn Jacks, portraying by Eden McCoy, who observed the property through binoculars. That brief glimpse was enough to spark a firestorm of backlash. Instead of the looming, eerie estate fans had come to associate with the Cassadine family and their legacy of secrets, the newly redesigned Windermere appeared sleek, modern, and sterile, more akin to a tourist hotel than a Gothic castle perched ominously on Spoon Island. For many, the transformation felt jarring and tonally inconsistent. Within minutes of the episode airing, fans flooded Twitter, Reddit, and fan forums with comparisons, memes, and even side-by-side images showing the Windermere of old versus its latest incarnation. One user even quipped that the new version resembled a hotel in the Netherlands, highlighting how far the redesign strayed from the essence of the original set. What makes this change even more controversial is that it came without warning or an in-universe explanation. Longtime viewers, many of whom have watched for decades, saw it not only as a visual downgrade, but also as a betrayal of the show's legacy. Windermere wasn't just bricks and mortar, it held emotional and narrative weight. From Nicholas Cassadine's darkest secrets to dramatic confrontations involving Ava Spencer, Victor, and even ghosts of the past, the estate was where mystery and malevolence lived side by side. Replacing that familiar setting with something generic strips away part of the identity that made General Hospital so atmospheric and unique. The reaction from the audience hasn't been quiet. Hashtags such as #NotMyWindermere, #BringBackTheCastle, and #GeneralHospitalSetFail began trending shortly after the episode aired. Fans voiced sentiments ranging from confusion to outright anger, accusing the production team of making unnecessary changes that damaged the immersive quality of the show. Many questioned the rationale behind the question. Was it a budget issue? A creative pivot? A symbolic move to mark a new era? Whatever the reason, fans seemed united in their belief that the new version of Windermere is a misstep. Adding fuel to the fire is the perception that this change is emblematic of a larger issue, that General Hospital is becoming increasingly disconnected from its roots in favor of stylistic trends that don't serve the story. This isn't the first time fans have reacted strongly to production changes. Set redesigns, camera angles, and lighting tweaks have all come under scrutiny in recent years, but rarely has a single change sparked such immediate and widespread discontent. For many, Windermere's haunting presence was irreplaceable, and its transformation into something mundane feels like an erasure of the emotional history embedded within its walls. Some viewers pointed out that this isn't merely about nostalgia. It's about tone and storytelling. Windermere was a location where danger lurked, where betrayals were whispered in the dark, and where viewers instinctively leaned forward, anticipating what malevolent scheme might unfold. Its ominous energy gave weight to the Cassadine storylines, reinforcing the family's mystique and often serving as a visual cue that something dramatic or tragic was about to happen. Without that context, the stakes feel lower, the suspense less believable. There is also a sense of frustration over the lack of communication from the showrunners or production team regarding the change. Transparency could have softened the blow. An explanation, a behind-the-scenes look, or even a narrative transition that acknowledged the shift that might just have given viewers a chance to adjust. Instead, the abrupt reveal left many feeling blindsided and disrespected, especially those who have remained loyal through cast exits, storyline misfires, and other turbulent periods in the show's long history. Furthermore, some fans have expressed concern that this change could foreshadow additional revisions to the show's foundational elements. If Windermere can be altered so drastically, what's next? Will other iconic sets like the Quartermain Mansion, the Corinthos Coffee Warehouse, or even General Hospital itself be next in line for a makeover? These fears speak to a deeper anxiety that the show might be drifting too far from the best elements that have defined it for over 6 decades. In the midst of this uproar, there are a few voices urging patience, suggesting that perhaps the new Windermere set will make more sense in time or may evolve further. Some speculate that the redesign could tie into a future plot twist. Perhaps Windermere has been sold, burned, rebuilt, or is meant to reflect a psychological shift in the characters who inhabit it. While those possibilities remain unconfirmed, the prevailing sentiment remains one of skepticism and disappointment. What's clear is that the audience feels deeply connected to the settings of General Hospital. These are not just backdrops, but emotionally resonant spaces that hold decades of storytelling weight. The disappointment over Windermere's redesign is a reminder that in a long-running soap opera, history matters and any alteration to its iconic elements must be handled with care, context, and respect. Otherwise, even the smallest changes can fracture the trust and emotional investment that viewers have built over years of dedicated watching. For now, the producers have yet to address the backlash publicly, but if fan reaction continues to escalate, they may be forced to respond. Whether through subtle set revisions, storyline justification, or official statements, some form of acknowledgement may be necessary to mend the rift. Until then, the new Windermere stands as a lightning rod for fan frustration, a symbol of how quickly sentiment can shift when beloved elements are tampered with without warning or context. And for a show like General Hospital, which thrives on drama, mystery, and emotional continuity, it's a lesson in how set design can either enrich or unravel the illusion that keeps viewers returning day after day. Of course, this recent change to Windermere does not drastically impact the overall storyline of General Hospital, nor does it constitute a major issue when viewed in the broader narrative scope. The heart of the show remains intact. The complex relationships, emotional betrayals, and shocking twists that define the soap's enduring appeal continue to play out, largely unaffected by the aesthetic of a single location. Characters still clash, secrets still unravel, and suspense still builds in ways that keep viewers invested. However, despite its limited impact on the actual plot lines, the redesign of Windermere has sparked a surprising amount of discomfort and confusion among the audience. The reaction isn't rooted in story but in sentiment, and that makes it all the more potent. For many fans, the question remains, why fix something that wasn't broke in Windermere? With its gothic majesty and brooding atmosphere, did it need improvement? It had long functioned as a symbol not just of the Cassadine family's wealth and isolation, but of the darkness, mystery, and decadence that defined their legacy. Stripping it of that visual identity and replacing it with a sterile, uninspired design has left viewers feeling disoriented and even betrayed. The new aesthetic lacks the grandeur and menace that once made Windermere such an iconic part of the show's emotional and narrative tapestry. Instead, it now feels like a generic, impersonal property that could belong to anyone. Anywhere a far cry from the Haunted Mansion viewers had come to associate with power, history, and danger. It's not that fans are resistant to change after all. Soap operas thrive on evolution, but rather that certain elements are sacred. The show's settings, especially those as storied and distinctive as Windermere, carry years of emotional weight and significance. They are the backdrop to key moments in characters' lives, and their visual consistency helps reinforce the show's long-term continuity. When that is disrupted without narrative justification or sufficient payoff, it feels less like creative evolution, and more like an arbitrary erasure of what once was. Viewers aren't just mourning the loss of a set, they're mourning the loss of atmosphere. Windermere used to evoke suspense and dread with every candlelit hallway and creaking door. Its current incarnation fails to capture that energy, and in doing so, unintentionally flattens scenes that once felt charged with tension. Even scenes that would otherwise feel dramatic or eerie now seem visually disconnected from the emotions they are meant to provoke. This shift in tone, even if subtle, disrupts the emotional immersion that the set used to support so effortlessly. The bigger question is, what motivated this change? Was it a logistical necessity, a cost-cutting measure, an attempt to modernize the show's visual language? Or perhaps a production decision made in isolation from the fan bases? Emotional connection to the past. Without a clear explanation, viewers are left to speculate, and that lack of transparency only compounds the unease. For a show that has spent decades cultivating a loyal and emotionally invested fan base, ignoring the symbolic significance of a set like Windermere feels like a missed opportunity to honor the show's own legacy. Fortunately, General Hospital is not permanently tethered to this current vision of the Spoon Island estate. That in itself offers a glimmer of hope. Unlike narrative choices that require long-term unraveling or character departures that demand complicated returns, a set redesign is relatively easy to reverse. If the producers are listening, and surely they are, given the volume and consistency of fan feedback reverting to the original or a more faithful recreation of Windermere's previous design could be done without disrupting the flow of the story. The change wouldn't need to be justified with elaborate explanations or new plot twists. It could happen organically, quietly, as a visual course correction that acknowledges the passion and loyalty of the viewers. In fact, the very act of returning Windermere to its former glory could serve as a small but powerful gesture of goodwill, a sign that the production team respects the emotional connection fans have built with the show over the years. It would reinforce the idea that viewer experience matters not just in terms of dialogue and drama, but also in the subtle, often underappreciated world building that takes place through set design. It's not just about furniture or floor plans, it's about the feelings these spaces evoke, the memories they contain, and the way they visually cue us into the world of General Hospital. Moreover, with Windermere's central role in some of the most dramatic storylines involving characters like Nicholas, Ava Spencer, and Victor, restoring its original atmosphere could help elevate future plots. Upcoming storylines involving Cassidy's secrets, haunted legacies, or psychological manipulation would benefit immensely from a setting that reinforces rather than undercuts the percent. The castle's dark corridors, moody lighting, and historic aura are perfect complements to tales of betrayal, madness, and redemption. In the end, the frustration over Windermere is not merely about set design, it's about the preservation of storytelling integrity. Fans don't expect everything to stay the same, but they do hope that change will be executed with intention, with respect for history, and with a clear understanding of the show's emotional ecosystem. A rushed redesign, however practical or budget-conscious, risks severing the threads that connect viewers to the world they've grown to love. And in a genre where continuity and familiarity are key to viewer loyalty, that kind of disconnection can be surprisingly damaging. The outcry over Windermere may have begun with a single scene, but it represents something much larger, a passionate audience's desire to feel seen, heard, and respected. If the show can respond thoughtfully by acknowledging the feedback and perhaps restoring the castle's classic features, it has a chance to turn controversy into celebration. It's a reminder that sometimes the details matter more than we think. And when it comes to a place like Windermere, the ghosts of the past deserve more than just new wallpaper. They deserve a home that reflects the gravity of their fare. Stories. Fans across the General Hospital community have made their voices clear. They want the old Windermere Castle back in all its eerie, atmospheric, and iconic glory. From its looming stone tower to the foreboding battlements that once gave the estate its signature Gothic presence. Longtime viewers are calling on the show's creators to rebuild Windermere with the architectural weight and shadowy grandeur that originally made it a cornerstone of Port Charles mythology. The modern watered-down redesign that debuted in the January 27, 2026 episode has failed to capture the magic of the Cassidy family's ancestral home, and now fans are campaigning quite vocally for a full restoration, not just to the rooms and corridors, but to the soul of the structure itself. Windermere is not just a location on General Hospital, it is a legacy. The castle has stood at the center of some of the show's most defining moments, from Nicholas Cassidy's tortured evolution to Ava Jerome's battles with ghosts, both literal and psychological, to Spencer Cassidy's rebellions, Victor's sinister schemes, and Helena's cold manipulations. The estate was never meant to feel warm or generic. It was always designed to be intimidating, mysterious, and layered with secrets, a character in its own right, whispering of past sins and dark futures. Its tower, once the site of confinement and conspiracy, and its stone walls echoing with past betrayals, helped ground the soap's more intense arcs in a place that looked like danger was possible. To lose that aesthetic is to lose a key piece of the narrative's emotional texture. Fans are now expressing hope and urgency that the next time Windermere appears on screen, it will return to the form that made it unforgettable. They're not just hoping for a few set pieces or lighting adjustments. They want a full architectural resurrection. They want the tower back, the brooding exteriors, the arched doorways, the candlelit chambers that once looked like they could house a ghost or two. The eerie ambiance was never just set dressing, it heightened the tension, amplified emotional stakes, and reminded viewers that the Cassidines were no ordinary family. With a lineage soaked in madness, legacy, and ambition, they required a home that mirrored their darkness and power. That castle isolated on Spoon Island was more than just a place to live. It was a stage where tragedy, revenge, and forbidden passion were performed. For a series that relies so heavily on visual cues to support emotional arcs, the appearance of Windermere matters. Its redesign may not seem critical from a plot perspective, but the ripple effect of that change has proven just how deeply invested fans are in the visual storytelling of General Hospital. When viewers saw Windermere transformed into something resembling a boutique hotel, sterile, brightly lit, stripped of Gothic charm, it felt like a betrayal of the atmosphere they'd come to expect. In soap operas, mood and memory are intertwined. When you revisit a place like Windermere, you're not just returning to a set, you're walking into the echoes of past heartbreak, confrontation, death, and discovery. That's why fans are pleading for a return to form. Many have argued that if the production team could invest so much over the years in plot twists, recasts, and dramatic turns, then surely restoring one of the show's most iconic locations isn't an impossible feat. After all, viewers aren't asking for something new, they're asking for something to be returned. And the reasoning is simple: if Windermere is to continue serving as a major backdrop for upcoming storylines, then it needs to look and feel like the Windermere we all remember, because without that emotional resonance, the stakes just don't feel as high. And those stakes are only going to rise. Windermere has always been the setting for some of General Hospital's most suspenseful and emotionally charged chapters. And there's no reason to believe that will change. In fact, all signs point to it remaining central to the drama in episodes to come. Anna Devane, played with masterful elegance by Finola Hughes, has recently spent considerable time at the estate, but her storyline at Windermere appears to be coming to an end. However, her departure may only signal the beginning of a new era of danger and upheaval surrounding the Cassadine legacy. The chapter ahead promises more emotional fallout, more betrayal, and potentially more blood spilled within those iconic walls, if only the walls themselves could once again reflect the gravity of those moments. The fanbase's reaction to Windermere's redesign also points to a deeper truth about the show's success viewers feel. Ownership. They aren't just casual watchers. They are long-term emotional investors. Their memories are tied to specific places, moments, and aesthetics. Altering those without care can feel like erasing their connection to the show. The desire to see Windermere restored is not merely aesthetic, it's personal. It's about preserving the illusion that they've been living in this world for decades alongside characters who age, suffer, grow, and sometimes die, but always within spaces that feel real and consistent. In the broader context of recent General Hospital debates, this controversy over Windermere's appearance also draws uncomfortable comparisons to other moments of abrupt or unpopular change, including unexpected recasts or character exits. Just as audiences grow attached to familiar faces, they grow attached to familiar spaces. When those disappear or change without sufficient care or explanation, it can feel like one more reminder that the world they've committed to is being altered without their input. That's a dangerous precedent for a legacy soap that depends on fan loyalty to sustain its cultural relevance. Still, there is reason to hope. Unlike casting changes or major narrative shifts, a set redesign is not irrevocable. If anything, the outcry over Windermere's transformation should serve as a wake-up call, not just about one castle on one island, but about the broader responsibility the show holds to its own history. Rebuilding Windermere in its traditional haunting form would not only restore visual harmony, but would also act as a symbolic gesture, a reassurance to viewers that their connection to the past is not being sezet, discarded but honored. As General Hospital moves forward, weaving new tales of heartbreak, ambition, deception, and redemption, Windermere deserves to be there in its true form. Not as a modern villa or impersonal structure, but as a place where shadows stretch long, where voices echo in empty halls, and where the past never quite stays buried. The show's next chapter will be filled with twists, especially with Anna's arc reaching a pivotal turning point.